Today we're going to check out the Cruiser Pro from Magicycle, as well as one of their helmets, well, one of their featured helmets that they have. And the biggest thing that I will probably say here is this is a very comfortable fat tire e-bike. And what I mean by this, the cruising experience here is more of a cruiser experience, and this is again the Cruiser Pro. And one of the big benefits here is that it has enough power, not only to drive the bike, but also give you that performance when you need it if you decide to go a little bit off-road. This is TK, and today we're going to check out both the Cruiser Pro as well as the new Neo helmet from Magicycle, and I'm going to share with you guys my review of both of them. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. And of course, first and foremost, we're going to start talking about the unboxing experience. Overall, the bike itself comes very well packaged with everything that you need, from accessories as well as even white gloves included, to be able to get you to basically get the bike assembled entirely. It's about 70 to 80% assembled already. So basically the steering wheel, the front tire wasn't in there. And of course, we do need to add in a couple of little accessories there as far as the front light, and of course attaching the steering wheel to it, or actually the steering pole in there. The overall experience as far as putting it together took me about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's primarily because this is literally the first fat tire e-bike that I've had the opportunity to actually put together and of course ride. So once I figured out everything I was doing, and there was a couple of emails back and forth with the folks over at Magicycle, I figured out there was a couple of mistakes I did, and now everything works great. Namely, I will say the big thing that I'll really recommend you is when you're putting in the front light, make sure that the actual direction of the beam for the actual front suspension is put in the right direction, so that it doesn't actually cause the light to bump against the actual steering, so that when you're actually riding it, it causes the light to get bumped in there. Otherwise, it actually works really good. Once we have that set up and everything was there, the helmet itself is also very nice and very easily configured. It comes out of the box, everything is already assembled. The helmet itself, one of the really cool things about it is an e-bike rated helmet. And one of the things I loved about it is that it has built-in speakers as well as a microphone, so that I can actually have a conversation. Now, the speakers don't go straight into your ears. They sit somewhat on the side as you're looking in that image. And one of the main benefits there is that it pushes the audio straight into your ears, so that when you're riding the bike, you're still very much aware of your surrounding, but you're also able to actually listen to a little bit of music. Of course, we have some lights, and of course some directions, be able to basically turn on SOS and signals, a lot of the smart kind of configuration that we have in there, and we also have the included charger. Once we have everything configured in that sense, you're pretty much ready to go out and enjoy riding this bike. The first thing I will say, it took me about maybe a couple of times of riding this to get the experience and understand that riding an e-bike that is a fat tire e-bike is very different than riding, let's say, a regular dirt bike or a regular racing style bike. Not only is it bigger tires, but also the turning circumference is much different, and you learn that very quickly when you try to turn the first time you do that. But as far as what I had the opportunity to do with this, I had the opportunity to play with it in a couple of configurations. Out of the box, the e-bike doesn't go to the full potential of 28.1 miles. So basically the full speed of it doesn't really reach there. It's configured to go with a seven-step configuration from 1 all the way to 7, and it hits about 90% performance. There are settings in there that you're able to jump into directly and configure this, so I was able to work with that as well. And once we got that set up, now I have the full potential, the full power performance from this. Now, what we're talking about here is the 750 watt, 96 Newton meters high power motor. We have a 52 volt, 20 amp hour LG battery that's powering this entire thing, and a rated mileage or range basically of up to 80 miles range per charge, and it's estimated depending on the configuration that you're using. As far as the brakes, we have the Tektro 180mm hydraulic disc brakes on both the front and on the back. It's a class 2 and a class 3 bike with a maximum 28 miles an hour performance, and it is rated to be at 28 miles an hour up to the pedal assist. It's not functional in that when you're using it with the standard boost. The Shimano 7-level pedal assist, 12 magnet basically cadence sensor works really, really good, and it definitely leverages between knowing when you're using the boost performance as opposed to just using it directly for pedal assist. It is configured out of the box to 7 levels, but you're able to reduce it to 5, again, in the settings. Now we have a front fork alloy hydraulic suspension that keeps the ride very smooth, and you can configure it from there. We have the upgraded alloy pedals as well, a 6-volt LED headlight in the front, and of course an integrated backlight on the back, as well as a rack that allows us to actually hold up to 15 kilograms in there. And as far as the height, it is rated to be basically for people around 5.5 to about 6.2 feet. One thing I will probably say is if you are somewhere around the 5.7 or 5.8, it may be a little bit harder, and you may have to turn the bike closer to the ground for you to get on it. For me, I'm about 5'10", and that it was a little bit of a challenge sometimes when I'm trying to put my foot over. This is not a step through, it's a step over, and there's different configurations available, of course. As far as the riding experience on here, it's absolutely one of the most comfortable riding experiences I've had. The bike itself is actually very well built, and they have those little touches in there with the kind of like that leather feel that you have on the actual handles, and of course the ability of having that display that is very nice and easily visible outdoors. Actually, let's go outside real quick, and I want to share with you guys a quick clip from me riding this bike, and of course going through the different experience in there. Again, it is super fast and very comfortable. So the Magicycle is a fat tire e-bike, and what that means essentially is it's handling this is going to be a little bit different than your standard e-bike, even your road bike, or even some of your standard, like, you know, thinner tire bikes. The biggest thing about this obviously is that it just, as you're turning it, it needs a little bit more handling. You see people passing me at this point. The first thing we're going to do obviously is I've already modified some of the settings on the bike to allow me to actually go to the full 28 miles per hour capability. Out of the box, it is not set to that. There's a few options in the settings section that you'll be able to do that. And then the biggest thing I'll probably say is the sheer horsepower at 28 miles an hour is crazy. And what I mean by this is you need areas where you have the ability of going for a long period without having to turn. This thing does not turn like a regular bike, so you have to compensate for that. Never go to that. And then of course, always remember, if you ever come to a stop, every time you want to slow down, always bring down the speed all the way down to 0 so that you do not accelerate accidentally. The other thing you need to know is that the 28 miles per hour capability is only available in pedal assist mode, meaning I am actually pedaling and actively engaging with the bike. And if I want to just use it with throttle, which is sitting on the right side, it'll go up to the 22, which is the typical speed that you get out of the box. So, without further ado, I have my pedal assist number right now running in at 0, which means the motor's not going to do anything. I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to accelerate 1 through 5. The other thing also, just keep in mind that the bike out of the box is configured to have a 7 gears, so it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels of acceleration, getting you all the way up to the 22. So that's by default how the configuration is done. And when you go to 100, which 100% or the 28 miles an hour, you need to be aware that that will actually need to be shifted down to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with 0 being that the engine or the motor is off on the bike. So nobody on both sides, we're going to go ahead and start biking on 0. So this is what it's going to feel like if I started off and I'm just riding it like a regular tire. The battery died. It is heavy. It is a strong bike. But this is what happens when I accelerate to level 1. And you see it right there. So this is level 1. Again, pedal assist is required to be able to reach the 28. We'll go ahead and go to level 2. I'm not even sure if you guys can hear it, but this is crazy. Right now I'm at 22 miles an hour, so this is level 3. I'm going to wait till I'm a little bit more of a straight line. We're going to shift it to level 4. So the first thing obviously I did was I needed to reduce the speed down to 0. Level 5 with pedal assist is reachable. Now if I'm not reaching it with pedal assist, I can just use the throttle on the right side. So overall, really nice. Brake system's really good. The ride is extremely comfortable. Just when you're riding at 28 miles an hour, please be careful. Now, one thing you probably noticed right there is that it is definitely a big bike. You need to be comfortable with the fact that it's not going to move the way a regular bike is, and you need to get used to that factor. It took me a couple of rides, and it was very, very nice from there on. For me, I will say this is one of my favorite bikes, actually my favorite bikes of the most recent e-bikes that I've reviewed. And it's primarily because of the comfort level, because when you go off-roading, when you go on gravel and you start going around, the thicker the tire and the better the seat, the more cushioning and the more comfort that you're in when you're doing these type of exercises. And the fact that I can go all the way up to 28 miles an hour, that is absolutely crazy fast with the power that we have in here. That tells you how much power you have in this system. Now, the 28 miles an hour only works with pedal assist, so you actually have to be actively pedaling, and it has to be on the highest setting of the pedal assist. Obviously, you're able to configure it. The one thing that I will say the difference here than some of the other bikes in here is that when you're using the boost functionality, meaning the half twist to be able to turn on the boost when you're not pedal assisting in here, it defaults to that 22 miles an hour, and it'll go all the way to that speed regardless of what gear or step option that you have. The step options that we have in here are primarily for pedal assist, so if you have it at 1, 2, or 3, it's only going to work there. And if you're trying to use the boost, it will take you all the way to the top. And one thing I really liked about it is I was actually kind of able to give it a little bit of gas, let it go to a certain speed, cruise a little, give it a little bit more without having to keep going consistently at that top speed. Of course, inclines, declines, there's no question. There's enough power here, 750 watt power here, 96 Newton meters power here. It's just not going to have any problems, even with me on it. And of course, I had a little bit of a bag on the back. I put a water cup holder in there. I even got a phone mount to be able to mount my phone next to it. All of the stuff works really good, and I love the configuration and just the comfort that we get with this bike. The overall experience is very nice. If you're looking for a fat tire e-bike, this is definitely going to fit the bill. The build quality is very nice. The engineering that we have in here as far as usability, it's very good. There is no app, so there's not going to be something that you have to worry about. You basically turn it on and start going. The power button is a little bit hidden above the arrows, so you just need to know where it is, of course, and you're able to set it up and work with it there. There's an ability of jumping into the settings section, configuring different things if you want to change it from the 5 levels or 7 levels as it's pre-configured, and it works really good. And with my experience working with the team over at Magicycle, it worked really nice. Now, when it comes down to the helmet, as far as usability, this is going to be one of those things you need to have when you have an e-bike. No questions asked. When you're talking about something that can go up to 28 miles an hour and you're riding it at that speed, you need to protect the ability of protecting your noggin. And of course, using a regular bike helmet is not going to be the only solution. You need to get something that's rated for it. This one that they sent actually surprisingly was running Harmony OS. If you're familiar with this is an OS developed by Huawei, and this helmet actually ran it very nicely. It has crash detection, Bluetooth connectivity, of course, to your phone. You'll be able to listen to music, answer calls, and have conversations if you'd like to, and allowing you to stay involved and aware of the environment. I will probably say is one of my favorite features of the helmet is the ability of actually having, God forbid, an SOS functionality. If you fall, you're able to actually trigger an SOS function on it, as well as an alarm in case of just somehow somebody's trying to take the helmet. And this is something that to keep in mind to allow you to be more aware of what's going on. The combination was very nice, and of course I enjoyed riding the bike and of course the helmet as well. And this is a lot of fun, even on a hot day when you're running at about 22 to 28 miles an hour. That wind that hits you, you just enjoy it, and it is freeing to be able to go outside and enjoy nature. So works great as a pedal assist, as a class 2 or a class 3 if you want to be able to use the boost. I hope you guys found this bike and my video helpful to make a decision if this is the bike for you. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support, and of course, I'll see you in the next video.